Welcome to our podcast, It's About Payroll. We're your hosts, Brian Escobar and Walter William Duncan III. Whether you're new to the payroll game or a seasoned veteran, we have something for you. All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We're so happy to be back with you again this week. How you doing, Walt?
Man, it's another day, another dollar. Well, actually, it's a weekend.
Yeah.
It's just another day, man. I'm excited to be doing this series. I'm just super excited about season 4. I don't know why. I just like doing it from the point of view of the business, the employer. It's just something a little different about it. And I think it's like causing us to really just focus in a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And everything like that. So,
It definitely raised the bar for us. I know I struggled, folks, to get it going because I just knew it was so important. And another reason why I'm excited, I think we just hit in a groove, right? Season 4, who knows how many episodes in? I think 30 episodes in or something. And I think we're just hitting that groove where we like really found the amount of time we like to talk, the topics, with clearly the topics, but we just really find that groove of how we like to do this show, and it's become exciting. It's really awesome. So yeah, all those things, man. All those things. Awesome, bro. Awesome. So I had this. You sent me some. I wanted to talk about some before we get into the show, folks. This is part 2 of episode 1, and episode 1 is just setting up your payroll. Right. We did it in 2 parts. Part 1 was for the new business owner, and this part 2 is going to be for the existing business. You've been in business for a while, and now it's about improvement. So before Walt walks us through some of those things, we always like to kick it and talk about some stuff. And Walt sent me this video about what do they call them? Motivational speakers or whatever. We follow a lot of successful people, right?
Content creator.
He's a guy, yes, a content creator. Let's act the age here. So yeah, content creator about success. We think this guy's a millionaire. So anyway, he said something about making $100,000 on a consulting tip, and the video was basically he doesn't do consulting, but somebody like just sent him $100,000, and he was like, all right, well, dang, all right. And all he ended up telling this person was like one little simple adjustment.
Yeah.
And what jumped out at me in that is so true. You can't, right? Outside minds can just give you a little tweak because you're so in it. You don't see what the little solve is.
Yep.
But what it made me think about are the folks who reject that.
Yes, absolutely.
That they're like, no way, it can't be that easy.
Yeah. For him, it was mind blowing, right? That he just said like he asked him one question, and that changed the landscape of his.
He went from, what did he say? He went from making $750,000 a year, $750,000 a year to 2-point-something million a year.
He basically tripled his revenue.
Just because of a little tweak that this guy didn't see, because he was so in it that he didn't see, dang, if I invested a little bit of money, can exponentially make more.
Yep. Because what was it? It's like he was
wasting 3 days a week calling.
Yes, he would set up calls like the first 3 days, and then he would close Thursday, Friday.
The last 2 days,
Yeah, and
the dude is like, why aren't you closing every day?
Yep.
And he's like, well, I got to make the calls. He's like, but do you?
Yeah. He said, hire an assistant.
That's all he said. Do you have to make the calls? And that's all he did. He made this person think. But kudos to if this story is real, kudos to the person who took the advice and wasn't mad at this dude that he just paid him $100,000 for something his wife probably could have told him. You know
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Or just somebody in his life. Again, kudos to him for taking that advice, because more often than not, we deal with people every day that don't take that simple advice.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And I think that's in relationships, that's what pisses us off as men, because like our wives will tell us something super simple and we'll be like, damn, they're right. Our partners, right? Our partners, our wives, and we're like, what in the hell? Damn, she's right. Damn it. So I guess the point is, folks, like, yes, it could be that simple sometimes to do exponentially better.
Yeah, absolutely. I think sometimes we can be so caught in the weeds, and it could create tunnel vision, right? We can't We don't see all of the different potentials that we have with our product or whatever it is that we're selling or into, and we can get lost in that. And it could be that outside force, whether, like you were saying, whether it is a wife or a partner in our life
Mm-hmm.
or a business partner, whoever it
Mm-hmm.
is, they say,
Yep.
ask that one question, make that one statement that'll
Yep.
change the trajectory of where we're going. And just like, oh, that makes sense. Why didn't I think of that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why didn't I think it? Exactly. Don't get mad at the why did I think of that. Just be like, dang, awesome. I
Yeah.
got it
Yeah.
now. Take it and go with it. And I think we do that best for each other because we talked about how we're so different,
Uh-huh.
but that's what helps our relationship, right?
Yeah.
Because we pose these simple concepts to each other that are simple to each other, but
Mhm.
to the other person, it's like, oh shit, I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right, folks. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, point is, don't be mad at folks when they give you a simple suggestion that really
Yeah.
changes your life because
Yep.
you didn't think of it already. Come on.
Hmm.
Like, no man is an island, no woman is an island. We need
Yeah.
people. We need a team. We need partners. We need other smart. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And it has to
These
make
people.
sense. It has to make sense, right? Though, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to make sure that you get advice from a person that is already established,
Yeah.
because
Ooh.
you know what I'm saying. And that's the one thing that
Yes.
the guy reached out to him for. That's
Yes.
another key point in there, is that he
That's
reached
that's
out to
right.
that
You're
content
right.
creator because he was already established,
Successful. Yeah.
successful businessman.
Yeah, very
So,
like very, very yeah. You're right because
yeah.
that made me think about another piece of info that I saw or come across recently. That was like, take advice from people who are where you want to be.
Yes.
Take advice from the dude.
Yeah.
No offense to anybody, but
Yeah.
don't, you know what I mean? You can't take advice from the disgruntled employee that's not gone anywhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or that the people in the world that just blame everything on everything else. They
Yeah.
take no accountability. You know what I'm saying? That's not the person you want to take advice from. You want to take advice from somebody who's successful in some manner. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Whatever you're doing.
Because think about, challenge your norms too, right? Because that's what
Hmm.
the guy did when he gave him that advice. He
Yes.
challenged his norm, his
Yep.
normal process. He's like, I need to change my process so I can become more efficient.
Yes.
You know,
Absolutely.
he could have completely gone left field and be like, you know what, I'm not going to change my model. It's working
Yep.
for me. I'm making six figures annually, so it's
Right.
good for
It's
me.
great.
You know,
Six figure. He was high six figures. He's
yeah,
only almost at $1 million.
yeah,
So yeah, of course you're like, "Pfft, I'm
hmm,
golden.
yeah, hmm,
But so again, kudos to that dude for wait, how can I be better?
yep,
And taking that advice. So it's perfect segue into how can companies that are already been processing payroll for whoever how long, how can they do better? And what are the areas that they need to look in for to do better?
yeah.
So if you could take us through these areas, and because you're in the thick of such an event, I figured it'd be good that we hear it from someone who's really in the trenches and architecting a way out of this to let us know, you know, real deal stuff.
No, sure, I appreciate it. But I know that I am currently, because Brian and I work at the same
Company.
company right
Hmm.
now. I am the payroll manager, and that's a role that Brian was previously in. So Brian can speak to it, but I appreciate the fact that he wants me to lead it
I'm in a
also.
different headspace now. So
Yeah,
far, I jumped ship to HR guys,
yeah,
and but it's still very much it's the other side of the same coin. You got
yeah,
payroll knows how it is. Any payroll professional knows that HR and finance are always your partners. You always sit in one of those departments, and if not, you're partnering heavily with the other.
yep,
So that was just, it was a transition for me, an opportunity for me that I was able to add some value, and
yeah,
that's pretty much the goal for me. I just like adding value.
yeah.
So yeah, so I'm
All
just
right.
not in that headspace right now. So I
Yeah,
want
man.
Walt to Walt is really in that headspace.
Yeah, fun. Good times, good times.
Yes,
All
sir.
right. It's a continuation of part one, what payroll means to a business. And this is more for the established businesses that are out there. You set up all your company structures and your payroll department has already been functioning. And this is to allow you to become more efficient as a business. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is compliance. So it's important to ensure that your business is in compliance with federal and state laws, regulations, to make sure that you're taking out the correct amount of taxes for employee paychecks and filing tax returns and reports on time. And some of that depends on how you process your payroll, what type of system you use. They say if you're the employer that you use one of the big boys out there or something like that, and you have it that they do the filing for you. So you still need to stay on top of that. You don't want to just have a hands-off approach as a
Yeah.
business owner.
No.
You need to stay on
No.
top of that and audit
Trust but
reports.
verify.
Yeah, trust
Yep.
but verify. So you still need to do your part as the business owner and make sure that those things are getting done, and make sure that your payroll department, your accounting department, whoever is over that, even if you have a tax manager, you need to make sure that they're
Hmm.
doing what you hired
Yeah.
them to do, and
Yep.
make sure that everything is set up, because it could be one thing that you don't that your employees don't update the SUI rate for one of your states that you may be in. The wrong rate
Hot topic right now.
is being the wrong rate is being deducted, and so you're out of compliance. It
Hmm.
could be with your 401k that's not done being set up correctly. You're having issues with that. You know, you need to make sure that is being done properly as well,
Yep.
because the employees, especially those who are on top of their deductions in their pay, they're going to make noise about that.
Oh yeah.
You
Oh
know what I'm
yeah.
saying? So that's something that
Absolutely.
you want to basically handle. And I think this might be the top one is the compliance. That's something to consider. Another one to think about is the data security. It's having your payroll information protected and secured, because if it's not protected and secured, those things it can cause a lot of issues for everyone, not just the business, but it can cause issues for the employees, the people that like drive the business. The reason why we're in the successful that we're in is because of those people that are out in the field, those ones who work the 9 to 5 and work OT and put in the time for us, right? So it's important that you have those checks and balances in place when it comes to data, so that everything is secure. You don't want to send reports out. You don't want to
Word.
send emails with PPI in it. You want to make sure you have either a secure share drive. You want to have those authentication factors and there's two-way factors in to verify login information and stuff like that. That's all part of data security, right? So you want to keep that stuff protected.
Yep.
Um,
Absolutely.
see, so this is another big thing, right? Having accurate data, making sure that
Your
your
inputs are
your
good.
inputs are in.
It's all about
One,
the inputs.
one thing that we learned is garbage in, garbage out.
Garbage out. That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so if you have bad data go in, it's going to produce bad data that's going to impact you as an employer, and it's going to impact your employees. And again, that stat you have to remember that we mentioned last show, that after two paycheck errors, 49% of people who experience that start looking for other jobs. And so down the bottom line, if they start looking for other jobs and say half of those 49%, half of that, those people leave, that is going to impact your retention. And so you need to make sure that your accuracy is on point when it comes to things. And everybody, and there's different levels of that, right? So depending on
Yeah.
how you have your company structured, if you have the managers and they're in charge of making sure that the employee time cards are correct on the day that payroll submitted. It's partly the employee making sure the time card is accurate, and it's partly on the manager making sure that that is accurate as well before it's
Absolutely.
submitted over the payroll, because it can produce an erroneous check or a short paycheck, or even overpay somebody if they didn't clock out one day and they didn't, and then they try to go to
Miss
punch
punch.
in.
Yep.
Yep, you know what I'm saying, and it can create a whole boatload of issues. So
Yeah.
that's to consider. And it's segueing into the next part is time management. So payroll can be a time consuming process, especially for small businesses.
Yep.
So it's important to find ways to streamline the payroll process to save time and resources, right? So if you notice that everyone's under their gun, they're always stressed out, it's always a difficult process when it comes to time management, you should probably reassess how you do things, reassess your processes,
Yeah.
figure out what works best for you as
Hmm.
the business owner, as the employer,
Yep.
because it should always be your goal to remain efficient and do it accurately. All
Yeah.
this stuff that we're telling you, it's really about having that balance. Like
Yes.
there's even though we want payroll to be perfect, we want these systems to be perfect, we are imperfect people, right? And
Yep.
so we're gonna make mistakes. So you need to really try to iron out those things for your company because it's going to help you along the way.
I have a suggestion for time management. What we
Yeah.
do, because payroll is so process driven, and it's like, all right, how quickly can you get through this thing? And got to do this thing for 300 employees. So what I do is I literally time, right? Stopwatch, a
Mhm.
clock. I set myself up and I like, all right, I'm going to start this process and I'm going to time it and I'm going to see how, and then times it by however many times I have to do it. We that helps us understand like, all right, is this doable or do we need some contingent help? Do we need to hire some help to do this temporarily for us? That is a good trick. And then it makes me think of there's a movie out there called The Founder with Michael Keaton,
Uh-huh.
and they talk that's
Yeah.
basically they talk about
Yes.
McDonald's founding, right? So, but what's in there is like the McDonald's brothers actually invented the what do they call that? The assembly line for food,
Yeah.
right? So if you look at that, man, like the process that they went through just to figure out the best way to lay out a burger and to serve fries and like to do all of this, it was very rudimentary. Like they drew out what it would be on the floor and they put people in place and they really walked it out. My point is, guys, be do whatever low tech things you need to do to figure out how long things will take you.
Yeah.
And if it and this day and age, we have a lot of high tech stuff that to figure that out because there's a lot of screen recording option tools. There all these software things that can help you do it. A simple your phone or stopwatch or whatever, just to
Yeah.
time how long you're doing things. And believe me, your managers will appreciate it. If you can speak to
Absolutely.
these things, hey, it takes me 4.5 minutes to do this and I need to do it times 1,000. Like this
Mhm.
is an unsustainable practice. It's going to take me 2 weeks just to do this, blah, blah, blah. They're going to be like, oh, crap. Okay. So when time management comes in, it's a little easier with payroll because our stuff is really deadline driven
Yes, absolutely.
and shoot, time management really should probably be like one of the top 2 or 3 things that you need to do well to do
Mhm.
payroll.
Absolutely. Like all these things factor in. It's not
Right.
just
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
you need to figure out what you're
Not
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. You need to figure out what you're doing well. So how we're reading these things off may not apply to you. So compliance, you may be really compliant as a company.
Yes. That's
And,
right.
but you may be struggling with your data security or your
Yep.
accuracy
Yep.
or time management. You
Yep.
need to figure out what is working successfully for you and hone in how do we maintain this, and then the other things you're struggling with, you want to focus in on, okay, how do we make this better, how can we
Yes.
shore this up to make it more of a balance. Like we were saying, the keyword is balance.
Balance. Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
continuing on down that time management role or section, timely processing is a part of that, right?
Mm.
You want to make sure that you pay your employees on time.
Uh,
That is important. The reason why we're in business, right? The
for
reason
real.
why we're successful.
Why they come to work.
Yes, and
Let's
why
be
we come to
clear.
work. Why we
Let's
come to
be
work, right?
right.
You know,
Right.
so
Let's be clear.
it's why the doors are still open, right?
That's
And
right.
so if we struggle paying our employees timely, that can create a lot of issues. It can create an issue with compliance because
Yeah.
depending on the state,
Yep.
most states say, hey, you have to pay your employees on time. I've heard stories in the payroll industry, and I'm sure you've heard these as well, where employees are like, hey, the prior owners, they used to skip payroll,
Yes.
tell us, hey, we can't pay you today, or they used to hold payroll without letting us know and they wouldn't say anything, especially during the recession and during COVID. I've
Just
heard a lot of those stories,
insane to me. It's
yeah,
insane.
yeah.
This is true
So,
though. Yes,
yeah,
pay people on time.
yeah. So we want to make sure that we're processing all payroll transactions on in a timely manner to avoid any delays or any errors. Um,
And
Go ahead.
I'm sorry if I may. Yeah, it's about trust, is what,
Yes.
and this piece really
Mhm.
speaks to trust. And if there are any folks listening that work with us, folks, believe me, we're not trying to break that trust. We're trying to
Uh,
build that trust.
Absolutely.
But unfortunately, it's years of different things that we're trying to resynthesize and
Mhm.
improve upon. It, we often say this is the challenge when a business is already running, and that's why this needed to be 2 different parts. It's very
Yeah.
different for a new business to do payroll as opposed to a existing
Hmm.
business, because you're really turning a ship. You're turning a really big ship,
Yeah.
right? And you're turning a ship in open water. You're not just turning on a dime, right?
Hmm.
It's a process to turn that ship around.
Oh,
And
it is.
then once you
Yeah.
get it around, you have to keep going. Now you have to go in the other direction. So
Yes.
if you
Yes.
think about it like that, give yourself some grace because it takes time. I've been a part of change for companies for a long time, and being a student of change, you learn that real change takes a few years, right? It's 3 to 5 years, depending on the size of the company, for real change to
Yes.
happen. And that's 3 to 5 years when everybody's moving in the same direction,
Mhm.
right? You can't even start that timeline until everybody is in agreement.
Yeah, man. Like it makes me think about, and it's interesting for you to say, about the turning a huge vessel, right? Like that. And I remember in the military, we were on a ship, and our captain wanted to do some fancy thing where we were
Hmm.
pulling into port. I forget which country we were in. It's somewhere in South America, and we were pulling into port, and he wanted to be fancy, and we crashed into the pier.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
and it was like it sounded like thunder on the ship, and so it's
Wow.
because he was trying to do some fancy turn at the last second and everything like
Oh
that. So
my
speaking to what
goodness.
you were saying, yes, you want to make sure that you give yourself enough runway
Yes.
to land the
Yes.
plane
Yes.
properly, right? Give
Yes.
yourself enough runway because I remember I worked for companies where the owner would make a change. He would come in, it's the middle of the quarter, and be like, "Hey, I want this done by the end of this quarter." And he wanted us to switch company like payroll providers or
Oh
payroll
heck
companies
no.
in the middle of a quarter. I want this
Uh-uh.
done by the end of this month, and I'm just, huh? What's going on? And it created a lot of issues, compliance issues, and stuff like that. So you need to have, as a business owner, you need to make sure you have those experts in place so they can reel you in sometimes, because you can be a visionary, but sometimes you can be have that tunnel vision as
Mm,
well. You need to make sure that you have the right people in place. Uh,
absolutely.
and then another thing to consider is your cost
Yes.
business, right? So payroll
Yes.
expenses can be a significant cost for a business. It's important to find ways to control those payroll costs
Yes.
by reviewing salaries, your benefit packages regularly. So you need to look at your PTO. You need to look at your actual benefit
Your compensation.
package. Yeah, your
Yeah.
compensation, all your compensation, which can include salaries, commissions, bonuses, and stuff like that.
Mhm.
You need to moderate and manage all those properly.
Yep. And then there's one that a lot of folks don't think about. Little things. Look at your actual cost to do payroll,
Yep.
what your provider's charging you. Don't A lot of folks they remember, oh no, they only charge 75 cents per transaction. Yeah, that's for the payroll piece, but go look at your invoices. Don't just blindly pay your stuff because you're
Yes.
there's other fees, there's other
Yes.
things that you sign to that you don't
Yes.
realize that you're being charged for. So
Absolutely.
when you're negotiating or you realize, hey, we're just getting a payroll package, so all I got to do is, okay, it's 75 cents per transaction. Great, I know how much it's going to be. No, there's more stuff. For instance, most places will charge you to deliver live checks,
Yeah.
right? And unless you're printing off your own checks at your office, which security wise, folks don't really like to do, um, or companies rather. And so think about that. I've been, those costs, depending on your size, can be in the tens of thousands of dollars either per month or per year,
Yeah.
depending on the size of just for delivering live checks. So
Yeah.
you could have a cost savings opportunity if you just switch to digital, or if you were so bold enough to do print backs at your own office and print your own checks, something like
Mhm.
that. You know, you'd cut that delivery down to just now maybe you're printing paper. The best practice is guys try to be 100% digital, right?
Yes.
If you can pull that off, you're saving a ton of money. And not only that, we talk about business continuity. I think we're going to do business continuity in this series, this season.
Yep.
And that ensures business continuity for your employees. So those are the other little areas, right? It's not just like the obvious costs. You got to really think about what payroll costs you
Absolutely.
comprehensively, right?
Yes.
Every single thing that goes into it. The
Yes.
person the person doing payroll and what it costs to pay them and then and that. So Think of the paper, the envelope, all this stuff. That is the
Absolutely,
cost
man.
of payroll. Excuse me. And it usually runs somewhere around the 50% mark of revenue
Hmm.
cost of payroll. So it
Yeah,
is a huge line item that
it
people,
is
that
huge.
companies, that employers are always looking at. And that's why payroll now has a seat at the table
Yes,
because it is a huge freaking expense.
absolutely, Brian. You're right. I want to go back to what you said about the invoices, right? So
Hmm.
it's important to review those because it reminds me of another story,
Hmm.
right? Like in my 2 decades plus of being in payroll, and Brian's 2 decades plus of payroll. Like I'm,
Don't be shouting me
I
out like that.
yeah, I've had situations where I've worked for a PEO, which is an organization that processes payrolls for many different companies in many different sectors and stuff like that. And I remember getting questions from some of those clients and saying, "Hey, when I signed my contract, it said that my cost per employee count, my cost per employee was going to be like Brian said, 75 cents for this, right?"
Hmm.
They didn't read the fine print. You have a
Hmm.
lawyer read this stuff, read that stuff. It said, "Oh, after 6 months,
Yes, it goes up.
it's gonna go up to this,
Yep.
or after this certain time frame, it's
Yes,
gonna go
it
up to
goes up.
this." You need
Yep.
to read all those things so you're not caught off guard. You need to look like it's the details. The
Yep.
devil's in the details, as Brian says.
Yep.
The devil is in the details. So you
Not
need to
only
make sure you read all that stuff.
exactly, and to continuing on that thread, you also need to think about how long you're locked into these contracts,
Yeah.
and also when your contract is expires, you
Hmm.
have to look at what is your renewal agreement,
Yes.
because if it you could have an auto renew for another X amount of years that you don't even realize.
Yes.
And then if you didn't change those terms before the auto renewal, you're stuck in it and locked in it, and then you got to pay a penalty to get out of it or whatever the case may be. Because I've seen
Hmm.
that in contracts that
Yes.
after 2 or 3 years being in it, it auto renews for another year or it auto renews for another 2 or 3 years unless you stop it.
Oh man, yes, bro.
It's okay.
Just gave you guys, guys
Nuggets,
and gals, some nuggets. We gave you some free
right?
game, as
And
the young ones
yes,
say now, right?
oh, is that what they say? Free game?
Yep,
Oh
some free
gosh,
game. Yep.
free game. All right. So right, and you'll look like, and be careful how you approach it. Approach everything with curiosity.
Yeah.
So if you want to bring this little nugget to your boss, be like, hey, I'm just curious, what does it cost us? Am I privy to look at the contract and understand the bigger picture and how all
Absolutely.
of this cost? Because a good boss is going to be like, dang, yes, you are here. Look at it.
Yeah.
Because, right? Because off cycles cost money, manual checks cost money. All these things, like these little one off things that we do on the side in payroll, everything costs something. So you should be, your whole team should know what costs. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So that they are able to share that as well, because sometimes
Yeah.
you have to share that with your customers. Like, hey, folks, I'm not allowed to do this because it's going to drive up the cost.
Hmm.
I know at one organization, we had a problem with, what was it? It was like lost checks,
Yes. Yes.
or is it lost checks? No, that, but so it's two different organizations. We did this two different reasons, two different organizations. One was lost checks. One was people were cashing their checks before check date.
Yeah. Yeah.
We talked
Yep.
about this,
Yep.
and the what we did as a counter, a measure, a penalty, or something, we would charge the business unit or that department, we would hit their budget for $25, whatever the cost was
Mm.
for either, and it's usually around $25. It might be more now, but
25 to 35.
exactly.
Yeah.
So for either a live check or a lost check, to stop a check and to reissue, it costs money.
Yep.
And then to and it tells you sometimes, hey, if you cash this check before check date, we're gonna charge you $25. Sometimes it's 50. Okay. So what we did was we passed that cost along to the budget of
Yeah.
that department or
Mhm.
business unit or retail center, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And you know what happens? People stop with that behavior
Yeah.
because hitting their budget.
You know what else I've heard of some other companies doing, and it probably was dependent upon their state that they were in, but I've heard some companies actually charge the employees for cashing those checks early like that.
See, it's debatable, right?
Yeah.
Because how did they get the check? Okay,
Whoever gave
there
passed out
you
the
go.
checks early,
There you go.
and the employee's like, "Oh, my checks came on Thursday. I get paid.
Uh-huh.
Check date is actually tomorrow, but I'm gonna go
Exactly.
ahead and get my money now.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. So that's why we would hit the P&L and the
Hmm.
budget, because it's not
Hmm.
the employee's fault, right? If but it's debatable, like you say. But yeah, but exactly right. Like those little things. So for to manage cost, sometimes you have to roll those costs back to the business units and back to the departments. But of
Yeah.
course, folks, get permission first. This is a big conversation first.
Yeah.
You
Hmm.
gotta suggest that to your boss. If you're the lead, if you're the department head, then you gotta whoever it is, you gotta suggest it to your boss, right? Unless you're the CEO of the company. So what? So don't just think, oh, I'm just gonna start charging people. You have to get buy-in from all the stakeholders,
Absolutely.
because if not, then the whoever's over the units that you service are going to be like, no, we're not doing that. Payroll's trying to do what? They didn't ask anybody. Like, get out of
Hmm.
here. So
Hmm.
you payroll guys, you cannot act unilaterally or in a silo. We always need buy-in. We always need our partners and our stakeholders to support the efforts that we're doing.
Yeah.
By the way, one off, really very one off thing, because of this, some payroll people become great project managers.
Yeah.
And then it's a great offshoot from the career because you're always managing these different projects. So, anywho, cost is a big one, and
Yeah.
you gotta, there's a lot of different areas that
Yeah.
cost.
And then
Um,
another area is your employee satisfaction, right?
that's a big one, and
That
yeah, that's a big one.
is huge, right? Because it
Hmm.
ensures all this factors, everything that you do factors in to the bottom line, which is producing payment for your employees. One of
Employee.
the bottom
Hmm.
lines
Yeah.
is paying your employees, right? And once you pay them correctly and you address any concerns or issues related to payroll in a timely manner, because there are going to be mistakes, right? Going to
Mhm.
be mistakes that happen. We're human, and even sometimes, even with when there's no human error, there can be some system errors, and it does happen. I don't care what type of system you use. If you use one of the big boys out there, there's the system is going to have glitches sometimes in it, and it's going to happen, right? But you need to resolve those things in a professional and timely manner for those employees, because that will improve and help maintain employee satisfaction and morale, right?
Mhm.
Doing those things correctly, doing those things in a timely manner, and because if you struggle with turnover and you're in an industry that naturally has high turnover in it, like retail, for instance,
Mhm.
retail has a naturally high turnover, right? And so you need to find ways to help keep those employees satisfied and happy with their
Yeah.
checks.
Yeah. I was really surprised with that one as we did our research to prepare for this, and
Mm-hmm.
pleasantly surprised,
Mm-hmm.
because we always look at, when you're looking at payroll, it's always very much technical. It's like a task, it's a transaction. People element
Mm-hmm.
doesn't come into it as much as it should. So I
Yeah.
was pleasantly surprised to that this really came up in our research for payroll
Mm-hmm.
employee satisfaction, and it makes a lot of sense because
Yeah.
your people aren't happy. Again, it's that trust factor. If you pay me, I trust as an
Absolutely.
organization, not as a person, but I trust that my organization is going to pay me properly. When that payment starts breaking down, that
Mm-hmm.
trust also starts breaking down,
Absolutely.
unfortunately. And as payroll folks, we really wish that it wasn't connected that way, because there are so many technical things that are not emotional in payroll
Mm-hmm.
that are impacting things. It's really not emotional.
Yeah.
And if you're doing it right, it's not emotional. It's dealing with the challenges in your tech, in your solutions, in your process. And it's never an emotional. Thank God we are in a place where it's not emotional. Please believe on everything. We love that we are not in a place where we're like, hey, oh, don't pay these people, hold
Yeah.
dips back, and we've been in those situations where we've been asked to do uncomfortable things, like, hey, can you not pay that person? No, we can't not do that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
don't pay them the OT. I don't like what he said to me today, I'm holding that OT. You cannot do that.
Nope.
You know what I mean? So thank God we're not in a place where a situation like folks are trying to do gray
Oh,
area stuff.
back in the day, I'm sure they were though.
Oh my goodness. When we first started, right? Because we've been doing it over 2 decades.
Yeah.
It's been such an evolution of things, man. And that's why we're just so excited to be a part of this conversation right now,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it's finally coming to the forefront. Payroll people finally have a voice, and we're
yeah.
being respected and understood, and holy crap. So it's an
You
amazing
can have
place.
a career as a payroll person.
Absolutely, absolutely, and we're gonna help you do it, go guys. We're gonna help you do it. There are a lot of we've been doing some research, and we're just a sidebar. We know there's a lot of folks in different areas of life who are looking to change careers. And hey, payroll's here for you. You know what I mean? And we're
Yeah,
gonna teach folks, help people understand what the opportunities are, and maybe that'll be a whole nother season, like a recruiting to payroll type thing.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And again, folks, back to cost, back to these important subjects. So just keep that in mind. Cost, employee satisfaction is huge, and it's whatever you can do to do that. Uh, it's so important that companies build task force for retention. They
yeah,
build task force to improve the processes.
yeah,
And honestly, I'm just so proud to be part of one of those companies that is doing that. Is
yeah.
our people are first? Our all our leaders know that people are the business.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. Yep,
And
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 that.
that is what we drive for. Sorry.
Yep,
So just give you
absolutely. No, you're good. You're good. I think those are great key points that you made. But you sometimes, definitely, sometimes as a company, you need to reassess those things and make sure that you're doing it in the right way, and all that factors in
yep.
to you as a business owner.
Yeah. And then honestly, as a business owner, you really should be trying to leverage what you have to
Mhm.
get more. Folks, I think that as employees, right, we forget that the company you work for is in business
Money.
to make profit, to do
Hmm.
well.
Yeah.
To One of the things that made me fall in love with business is that this concept that corporations are separate entities that are built to last forever. And but it's the caretakers, it's the guardians, it's the stakeholders of those corporations that can usher it through infinity.
Yeah.
The conceptually is just like amazing to me. As a student of business, I get it, but as an employee, I know where we get caught up and, oh, we need this, we need that, blah blah, but oh, we're overworked or whatever. We gotta leverage, right? We have to
Mhm.
leverage what we have, because if not, then that cost of payroll goes up, and then we're not making money anymore. Now this company cannot live forever. It's going to have
Yep.
an end date. It's going to expire. It's going to go bankrupt, and it's going to cease
Hmm.
to exist.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So if you're starting a business, keep that in mind. Like, you started business to make money, unless you are starting a non-for-profit organization, but it still doesn't mean you don't pay your people. Really understand what
Hmm.
non-for-profit means. Okay, it may
Yeah.
give you a little bit more flexibility with time and speed, but you still have to make money.
Yep.
You know what I mean? All businesses, non-for-profit or for-profit, have to generate revenue to exist. So if you take away from that revenue generating machine, then that's not good. We don't need people in organizations that take away from the overall well-being. You're in an organization to add value. Period.
Yeah.
Period. And if you don't
Yeah.
like that concept, start your own organization. Do
Yeah.
something on your own. But if you need that paycheck, guess what? They need you to do something well.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That's it. Like, owners have to manage the cost of payroll, and it is tied directly into employee satisfaction.
Yep.
But the flip side of that is, if you're never going to be satisfied, you need to move on. You know what I mean? Go find something as a human that is going to satisfy you. And
Yes.
unfortunately, companies will weed out these folks who are just there to drain and not
Hmm.
add value and not do what we hired them to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
So just think about that, guys. Companies have to focus on cost. As an
Yep.
employer, you have to focus on the cost. And
Yep.
absolutely, employee satisfaction ties right back in.
Uh,
And it's, hey, guys, yes, if your company's working hard at doing that, you're obliged to do something back, not just sit there and exist and entitled it should just come to you. No.
yeah.
For what? We're not in a socialist situation or communist situation where everybody gets the same money and, hey, it's all equally divided. No. We're in America. Is a capitalist system, is built on what you can do. You get out of this country what you can give. You
Absolutely.
get out of your life what you can give. So just, I'm sorry, I know I'm going a little bit in tangent here, but you got to be able to think as an employee. You got to understand the employer part. I think what makes me a great employee is that I am also a business owner.
Yep.
So I know what I want out of my people. So I work diligently, passionately enough to give that to my bosses because I know what I want out of my team. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And I'm fair with it and I'm good with it. And as long as they're fair with me, man, I give you everything I got.
Yep.
You know what
Great
I
points,
mean?
man. Yeah.
So yeah, folks, that's all.
So Brian, so that's pretty much it from the things that we have listed for this episode. Were there any things that you wanted to go back on and like mention?
Oh, no, you covered it. Well, the things that I tapped in on, I think time management, I had those tips. Cost. Oh, I wanted to say about cost is that we're going to double back on cost. Cost is going to be a separate episode, folks.
Yeah.
So we came across it in this preparation and we were like, whoa, wait a minute. Cost? Hold on.
Hmm.
Just like all the things, because I rambled off. Wow, I can't. So cost is going to be a separate episode in it of
Yeah.
itself somewhere in this season
Mhm.
because it's such an important topic because
Yeah.
there are so many little things that we don't look at. So again, cost was a big one.
Yeah.
Employee satisfaction, I was definitely wanted to touch on. And no, that I think that's it, man. We again, this is how do we improve the current business owner. You've been in business for a while, and these are the tips. However long you've been doing it,
Hmm.
payroll be a constant improvement process. You should be constantly improving your process, asking the five whys all the time,
Hmm.
right? Um, and being very analytical of everything that you do.
Great, man.
Yeah, man, that's it, man. That's it. I think that's it, folks. Hopefully, we gave you some nuggets and it was helpful today.
Yeah, absolutely. Let us know. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your thoughts. That you're able to comment, and especially in Spotify, you're able to say how this episode impacted you. If there's any notes or thoughts you had for us, anything you want to add, we want to hear from you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Or LinkedIn, you can hit us on LinkedIn. We're
Yeah.
available there.
Mhm.
And that's it, folks. Thanks for spending the time with us. Hopefully, you got a day off this week. It is a holiday weekend. Hopefully, you get
Yeah.
to have that day off. I thought about a bunch of work stuff during this call, so I don't know if I'm going to be off or not. But
I'm gonna be working too, man. It's at least
working
part
a
of the
little
day.
bit.
At least part
Yeah,
of the day.
yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
I gotta do some work as well, man. So it is what it
Cool.
is.
Yeah, whatever it is you guys are doing, holiday weekend is for MLK. Uh, and what I love to do on MLK is me and the family watch his full version of the I Have a Dream speech.
Nice.
And it's an amazing speech. And look out for the full version and listen to the full version.
Yeah.
And that's just something to pay him tribute every year. And God bless, man.
God bless everybody.
Peace.
Later. Thank you for listening to today's episode of our podcast. We appreciate you. We're grateful for you. And we hope that the information that was shared with you will impact you as a payroll professional. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and most importantly, keep going.